all for joining us today. We are very pleased to co-host this event with UT Dallas. My name is Serene Yan, and I work for the Data Science Association. I'm here today to welcome you all and wrap a little bit of today's schedule. So before we start the conference, I want to know all of you a little bit. So how many of you today are actively pursuing a career in data science? Wow, that's a lot. And are any of you still on the fence for data science? Okay, one or two. So how many of you are in the industry already? Are any of you hiring data science? People looking for a job, remember these hands. All right, so without further ado, let's kick off today's conference. We are pleased to have Jason Gunn, the General Committee of the Data Science Association, to deliver the welcome address. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Serene. So, that is amazing yesterday when I take a Uber from the airport to the hotel. I meet Mr. He will come today, and his story is he's one of the first students in Austin Data Science Boot Camp. He quit his job and working as an Uber driver, and he wants to change his career to data scientist. So that is amazing, and he's one of Dallas. That's the picture I take in the car. And if you have any data scientist opening, please contact with him. He's looking for a job. So I would like to thank you all the sponsors, especially to UT Dallas. UT Dallas is a great school and provide this beautiful space for the conference. And also special thanks to our sponsors. We have NVIDIA, Omnitracks, UT Dallas, Data Application Lab, Tech Tinks, great founders. And also special thanks to all the colleagues and volunteers. I will try my best to pronounce their name correctly. I would like to thank you, Berlin, Gajana, Kupari, Maka Taija, Juan, Sarada, Stephanie, Bin, George, Isang, and Xiaoyuan. Thank you all. Without your hard work, you won't have this conference. And also, great welcome to everyone. Let's start the conference. Thank you.
All right, so before we start the session, I would like to remind you that all the speakers will have 20 minutes of the presentation, and they will leave 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A. We encourage you all to ask questions and participate. So now it's the time to introduce our first speaker, Juan Vazquez. He is a data and engagement strategist at Office of Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti. Juan is a part of the mayor's operation innovation team and is also the founder of Tech Tinks, a community organization for Latinos and Latinas working across the tech spectrum. Welcome.
Hello, you'll hear me? Cool. All right, sir, this is the clicker. Can you see? Excellent. How are y'all doing today? Everybody awake? You got a little coffee in you? All right. So my name is Juan Vazquez. I am here today to speak a little bit more about the human side of the work that we do as data practitioners. The technology, the best practices, the standards, all extremely, extremely important. But when we talk about large bureaucracies or organizations like the city of Los Angeles being the second largest in the country, I'll give you all a little perspective on what that really looks like. How humans interact with our insights, with our systems, with our work, it becomes increasingly important for it to be sustainable and permanent, or at least for it to last as long as we intend for it to last. I don't know about y'all, but there's nothing more frustrating than dedicating a lot of love and attention and effort to a project and then passing it off to the other group and then it just falling apart because they didn't have the right context or encouragement to keep that going. So that's what we'll talk about today. Specifically around how my team has built the real estate portfolio for the city of Los Angeles. Also, I'm pretty active on Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter handle is up there at Juan S. Bass. Feel free to tweet along. I will show some love afterwards and retweet anything. So at Juan S. B-A-S. So the city of Los Angeles, the second largest in the country. It has over 4 million residents when we talk about the metro area, 470 square miles, manufacturing, biotech, entertainment, medtech, all very important things that are ultimately affected by real estate. Affordable housing, homelessness, possible acts of terror, earthquakes, emergencies, all of these things really, really matter and are impacted by real estate. And so I will frame for you all what my team was brought in to do. I will also explain to you all where the city was before my team got here. Then we'll dive a little bit into specific goals, our tech and data journey, some next steps that my team will be tasked with carrying out over the next few months, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. I hope the 20 minutes works. I'm gonna put my phone on here so I can keep track of where we are. Okay, but first a little bit about myself, about my team. We are somewhat of a unique model. This is the entire budget and innovation team within the mayor's office of LA Mayor Eric Garcetti. This is important because we're one of the few cities that has bundled the city's budget and the dollars that it manages and oversees with innovation. That umbrella, which to me really means modernizing systems, moving away from paper processes over to digital processes, having things that attach timestamps to when actions are taken. You know, it's not all highly convoluted or mysterious. A lot of it is just getting the city to a place where it can be efficient and where it can lead. So this model of bundling the dollars with the innovation work is very important. This is not all of my team. My team is the operations innovation team. We're a very nimble, fast, 4 to 6 person team. This is me right here. I'm a data strategist by day. Apparently by night I'm a babysitter as well. This day is when the employees can bring in their families to take pictures with the mayor. Let's see where we do the pointer. Well, the mayor's right there in the middle, so that was my boss's kid. She was busy with a meeting, and so I got stuck with baby duty. Card is very cool. But so all this to say, my team is structured in a very unique way. As the data strategist, I am tasked with threading together storytelling and data analysis. So that's important because most folks within the city are not technical, and most folks within the city have about 10 minutes to hear you out and decide if they're going to support your work or not. That's specifically important when it comes to policymakers. I will hint at LA's organizational structure in a little bit when we talk about the technology that we're rolling out. We have 3 project managers, each tasked with leading one very specific initiative: real estate, which is what we'll talk about today, procurement, which is the practice of buying products and services, and then the other one is employee safety and wellness. I work across all 3 of those initiatives, and again, merge storytelling and data analysis to drive forward our reform. Ooh, okay. I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to formatting. I did this last night really late. That's bugging me out that that N is dangling, so I apologize for that. But real quick, what were we brought in to do within real estate? Our vision is to create a culture of real estate excellence and innovation through leadership, specifically by capitalizing on intellectual capital. So who within the city can we leverage, and how does leadership transition or translate to innovation? One important note here, I know we can talk about specifically what technologies or systems we want to implement. Again, within a large bureaucracy, a tiny percentage of people will be tech curious or tech skilled. So having something that really bundles together the work in a more meta way we find is increasingly important to continue getting buy-in. So before my team got here, or got to the mayor's office, where was the city at? That was back in September 2015. My team started in August 2015. Our first month was largely around kind of figuring out what we were doing. Most of us are not from government. Most of us came from the private sector. So the first month was really just learning. In September 2015, the city was, all real estate decisions were largely driven by the city council. LA City Council has 15 members. So imagine if operations are being driven by political figures. That meant that decisions were highly decentralized. They were not done strategically or with a very thoughtful intent. And so that was one big problem. Additionally, the process was really long. If a council member needed a list of the city-owned properties in their district, it took like 7 months to get a PDF of a CSV with like 10 records. 6 months. That's ridiculous. As I mentioned before, also lack of strategic leadership. When it comes to data work, operations, strategy, and a vision becomes really important. So from a technical perspective, how did that manifest itself? Well, we learned that there are at least 15 ad hoc local systems or processes. That's a fancy way of saying there are 15 different people having Excel files or Google Docs open on their computers, and they just did their own thing. That was mind-boggling to me because my friends and I use Google Docs to plan road trips. 5 people going to the mountains should not be the same way that the second largest city in the country manages its real estate. That's crazy. Additionally, like I mentioned, lists. That's how the city viewed its land. Rows and columns, tables. This is geography. We're talking about where people live, where they work, where community engagement happens. That should mean maps. That should mean let's view real estate not just as an address, and we didn't even have unique identifiers, by the way, so a lot of things were intersections or nicknames for properties. Let's view that within the context of its community. Additionally, there are no hierarchies, no standards. One group would call one property something, the other something else. Many times people thought they were talking about the same exact property, and they were talking about different things, or they thought they were talking about different properties, and it turned out to be the very same thing. So a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of poorly made decisions, a lot of context that wasn't there. So what were our goals when we started? We wanted to leverage technology in the best way possible. That meant moving away from rows and columns over to interactive maps. It meant having standards. It meant approaching our work in a way that creates transparency, and I'll show you what that really looks like now, a year and a half later. And really providing city infrastructure with the tools to approach its land strategically. It's, like I mentioned, affordable housing, homelessness, earthquakes, all very real things that could happen and are happening right now. How do you make decisions in a way that's strategic and is forward-thinking as opposed to highly reactive? So we're going to dive a little bit specifically into how we use technology and data to implement those goals. This kind of captures it. It's infrastructure, it's centralizing our data away from those 15 different systems, and also bring in the right type of leadership. Along the way, you'll note some of the URLs. These will hint at either the open data portals that we leveraged or the different platforms and tools that we're implementing to provide both the data support, the tech side of things, and then lastly, some of the narrative. I'm sure storytelling, again, that's one of my roles. That's an increasingly important part of data work. As tech gets more complex, what are the stories, the anecdotes that together really highlight all of the important stuff? So because we had all these random data sets and systems and spreadsheets, it was really tough to figure out where to start. So the most comprehensive listing that we found to use as our baseline was LA County's assessor, the county assessor office. So they had, for the most part, almost every asset that the city owned. It was largely outdated. And when we started, that was one of the biggest pieces of pushback. People knew that the county assessor's office was where the most amount of information was, but because it hadn't been updated recently, they were just like, well, it's bad. I thought, hey, you know what would be better? We don't have anything, so let's start with that and work on updating it and layering the new information that we had. So that's what we used. This runs off Socrata. If anybody has used it, show up. Anybody use Socrata or open data portals? Cool, a handful. This is amazing technology. It's super useful. There's thousands of municipalities, townships, cities, counties, states using Socrata technology to share stories, provide data sets. It has APIs, it has all kinds of downloads and things you can bring real-time feeds into other platforms. I highly suggest you check it out. For LA County, that's data.lacounty.gov. So we use the county assessor to set a baseline. Now I mentioned 15 different systems that ultimately turn into 55 different data sets that we layered over the county assessor's database. We'll talk about polygons in a minute, but basically the county assessor gave us APNs, assessor parcel numbers. It was the closest thing to a unique identifier that only worked for properties within LA County, clearly, because it is the LA County Assessor's Office. So we used them as a baseline, and we started just mapping, geocoding all of those 55 different sets and layering them on top of each other. When we found an address that landed exactly on top of one of our APNs, we knew that that was a record that needed to be merged. We also set a little bit of a buffer around our parcels or the polygons that we got from the county assessor's office. If the address that we geocoded from one of the 55 data sets landed within, I think it was like a 10-foot buffer of the center of the polygon, we merged that as well. So we went 55 different data sets that resulted in about 27,000 records. After removing the first wave of duplicates, we went down to about 17,000. And then we realized we had made some mistakes, and so that took us down to about 13,000. We're now at a point where I feel pretty comfortable saying the city of Los Angeles owns about 10,000 parcels within the state of California. We own about 8,000 to 9,000 within LA County, but the city owns land in all kinds of places. So that was kind of the process that we went to set a baseline, to start being able to view things on a map. And then as we did some of the data work, we realized that we had a lot of bandwidth and knowledge gaps. So I'm not a trained computer scientist, I'm not a trained data scientist, I'm not a trained engineer. Most of what I've learned has come from project-oriented work. My background started in communication, so super soft skills. So knowing that we needed some support, also because it was a small, nimble